Belgian Prime Minister Bart De Wever has called on the European Commission to provide answers and guarantees to the legality of using frozen Russian assets to loan Ukraine.
2 people have been arrested in connection with what police confirmed was a terrorist attack at a synagogue in Manchester on Thursday.
Belgian Prime Minister Bart De Wever has called on the European Commission to provide direct answers to the legality of using Russia's frozen assets to issue Ukraine a €140 billion loan. The idea was first proposed by European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen last month, an idea set to test the limits of international law. The audacious plan would entail using up to €185 billion in Russian assets held on Belgian territory. But De Wever wants guarantees that if it goes wrong, Belgium won't be the only country liable for repayment, damages, or litigation.
I don't want to give a dime back to Mr. Putin, and I understand why everybody's looking at a huge amount of money. If you look at the sovereign assets, 170, in other countries it's also a lot. We are ready, willing and able to go forward. It's no problem. But I want answers on every question I asked. I want a maximum of legal certainty, I want solidarity, and I want transparency on the situation in the other countries. I don't think this is an unreasonable position.
Under the scheme, Russian funds frozen by Europe's Central Securities Depository, Euroclear, would transfer the money to the Commission, which would then be gradually issued in loans to Ukraine over time. Ukraine would then be asked to repay the loan only after Russia agrees to compensate for damages, hence the name reparations loan. The Commission would then repay Euroclear, who in turn will reimburse Russia, completing the circle.
2 people have been arrested in connection with what police confirmed was a terrorist attack at a synagogue in Manchester on Thursday. 2 people were killed and several others critically injured after a man drove a car into a crowd and began stabbing people, police said.
As has been confirmed by CT policing, we believe that the identity of the offender has been established, but until we are certain of this fact, it is premature to set out this detail at this juncture. In addition, I can confirm that 2 other individuals have been arrested in connection with this incident, and urgent inquiries are ongoing. We can confirm that 2 members of our Jewish community have sadly died as a result of this attack.
The attack occurred on the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur, with many gathering at the location for the celebration.
I heard bang bang, and then we heard the helicopters, we heard the sirens, but you hear sirens every day because we're around the corner from the hospital, so you kind of hear it every day. It's an everyday thing, you're hearing the siren. And then we thought maybe God forbid it would be a suicidal because we're right near the forest, but then we heard it was gunshot and there'd been
Officials say they believe they know the identity of one attacker at the scene, although declined to release any more details. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said the attack was an example of the rise of anti-Semitic hatred in the United Kingdom.
Spain has imposed a total arms embargo on Israel, but the suspension of imports is causing problems. Madrid mainly imported ammunition, rocket launchers, anti-tank missiles, and radio and transmission systems from the Jewish state. The termination of these defense contracts poses problems for army units which utilize this equipment.
At the end, the police will receive probably not the type of ammunition they prefer, and our pilot will delay the training because the Israeli firm will not update our current aircraft, and probably our industry will have difficulty to find new companies to market for those missiles and multi-rocket launchers.
Several European countries have partially banned arms sales to Israel, but only Slovenia in July and Spain in September extended the ban to purchases. Experts say these total suspensions should be followed closely, as Europe is the main market for the Israeli defense industry.
On estime en 2024 que Israël a exporté pour un total de 14 milliards approximativement donc de dollars, et environ la moitié de cette somme serait due à des exportations à destination des États européens. Les États européens achètent aux fabricants d'armes israéliens notamment des missiles anti-aériens, des missiles anti-chars, des drones, des munitions pour des armes légères et de petit calibre, des systèmes électroniques, donc tout de même des choses assez variées. Parmi les États qui achètent ces équipements à Israël figurent notamment la Roumanie, l'Allemagne, le Danemark, l'Estonie.
For analysts, it's difficult to predict if other member countries may also decide to suspend imports. Israeli defense firms have branches and subsidiaries in Europe, but don't always sell their weapons directly through them. Sometimes, as is the case with Madrid, it may be a matter of companies joining forces to develop these technologies in Europe.
This Thursday marked the third day of nationwide strikes in France in less than 1 month. After the demonstrations of September 10th and 18th, unions once again rallied people across the country to oppose the government's planned budget cuts. The turnout, however, was much lower than the two previous strikes. The Interior Ministry counted 185,000 people at 5 p.m. compared to 500,000 just 2 weeks ago. The main trade union CGT said that 600,000 people demonstrated this Thursday across France. Here in Paris, the protest was very calm, a sharp contrast with the more tense atmosphere and clashes that we saw 2 weeks ago. This time, union leaders did admit that the movement was losing momentum. They did, however, say that they're now waiting on the newly appointed Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu's general policy speech in Parliament that's scheduled in the next few days. For now, no further mass protest date has been set, but unions insist nothing is ruled out. Sofia Kastenkova reporting from Paris for Euronews.
Europe's steel industry has said its survival is at stake, warning of mass layoffs unless Brussels introduces urgent protection against US tariffs and Chinese imports. German union IG Metall says companies such as ThyssenKrupp face thousands of job cuts. The sector supports around 2.5 million workers across the European Union. The European Commission's Vice President convened an emergency summit with unions and industry leaders after US President Donald Trump imposed up to 50% tariffs on steel. Surplus from China is also flooding the market and driving down prices. The Commission says it will propose fresh protective measures at next week's European Parliament session in Strasbourg. Two people have been killed in anti-government protests in Morocco that have filled streets for a fifth night in a row. The so-called Gen Z protests, driven largely by internet-savvy youth, have emerged as the country's largest in years. Demonstrators are protesting what they say is corruption and underinvestment in government and public services. Despite lacking official authorization, protests are spreading to new areas, underscoring growing anger at what participants call rampant corruption and neglect of schools and hospitals. The Interior Ministry said 409 people were arrested since protests began on Saturday, with 263 security forces injured along with 23 civilians. Authorities said 142 police vehicles and 20 private cars were damaged.
Pope Leo XIV has weighed in on U.S. politics for the first time since being elected in May, commenting on hot topics roiling the domestic scene, like abortion and immigration. The first U.S.-born pontiff pointed out contradictions surrounding the anti-abortion debate and questioned what it really means to be pro-life.
Someone who says I'm against abortion but says I'm in favor of the death penalty is not really pro-life. So someone who says that I'm against abortion but I'm in agreement with the inhuman treatment of immigrants who are in the United States, I don't know if that's pro-life. So they're very complex issues.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt disputed the concerns raised by the Pope.
I would reject there is inhumane treatment of illegal immigrants in the United States under this administration. There was, however, significant inhumane treatment of illegal immigrants in the previous administration. This administration is trying to enforce our nation's laws in the most humane way possible, and we're upholding the law, and we're doing that on behalf of the people of our country who live here.
The Pope's comments came after Chicago Cardinal Blaise Cupich nominated Illinois Senator Dick Durbin for the Lifetime Achievement Award for his work on helping immigrants. Durbin's nomination drew heavy criticism from conservative U.S. bishops, who rejected him due to his strong support for female abortion rights, which goes against the Vatican's official position. Durbin has since declined the award, causing Cupich to call for greater unity and less polarization in order to advance the role of the Church in the U.S. political scene.